What's up guys, Silver here with another Halo Master Chief Collection Achievement Guide. This time we're doing part 10 of our Halo 2 LASO run. This is Gravemind, thought to be the toughest mission in all of Halo. But we have a few tricks up our sleeves, and throughout this guide I'm going to cut in with additional footage from different runs I did, just to show you different possibilities and scenarios you may come across, because there's a lot of randomness sometimes when it comes to spawning in, especially with the first room. But overall, I found a consistent way to get out of the first room for the most part, so let's get into it. We're going to spawn in, and we want to back up and kind of strafe to the left and the right rapidly, and use the ramp in front of us to kind of give us a little bit of cover, so you could crouch behind it a little bit. And you want to focus your fire with your Needler on the leftmost brute. Once you kill him, you want to reload your Needler as fast as possible and grab the additional Needler ammo on the ground here. And usually the 4 grunts will flee into their respective doors, so we don't have to worry about them. We're going to jump onto this TV type thing. You can see the grunt was using this as a television in the cutscene, so I'm just going to call it the TV for now. We want to look and see where the brute plasma rifles have been dropped. Grab the one that has the most ammo. That's the one that was dropped by the berserking brute. And we're going to go up here if we need to. This is a safe spot from the brute who's running around. And then we could go back to that TV and stand on the top of it. You're not 100% safe up here, but you're pretty safe. He probably won't hit you. He hit me right there. You can see I got some blood splatter coming out. You could always jump when you're on this TV to make yourself even further out of reach, but we're going to wait for him to come to the TV and then just start bashing the crap out of it. He'll get stuck in this animation of rapidly punching it. At that point, you want to lay into him with your Needler and jump at the last second to avoid the damage from the Super Combine explosion. Go to this door, punch the grunt, and then wrap around behind him to use him as a meat shield while you beat him down. And then we're going to cut back and circle around this ramp, and we want to prioritize any of the grunts that are throwing nades or shooting us, and we want to plasma rifle them as we get close to them to stun them, beat them down for shields once you're close enough, and collect all the nades you can. Once we kill this last grunt, we're going to go in this middle door to the left from where we spawned. And you can see it's locked, but if you actually go to the side of it, it will open up and then you can wrap around and inside it. And you want to do this part quickly. What we're doing here is standing in a specific spot in this doorway to get the first waves of enemies to despawn. You can see I'm standing in such a way where the cluster of 3 lights in the upper left part of the screen, the left side of the leftmost light in that cluster of 3 is touching the left doorway. And then same for the right side. You can see the cluster of 3 lights in the upper right. The rightmost light is barely touching the right side of the door frame. So you'll know you did this right if you're standing here for 25-30 seconds with nothing happening. If you see enemies walk into your line of vision, that means you didn't do it. I would recommend restarting so you could try it again. 3 brutes and 4 grunts are going to spawn in eventually, and 1 grunt's behind you, so back up when that happens. You'll hear him spawn in, smack him in the back, and then unload on the grunt in front of you with your Needler. Back up to avoid any nades or gunfire, and sometimes you'll see a grunt crossing your path like so. If that happens, stick him. More rarely, a brute will do this. Either way, just stick him. The most common thing I found, though, is when you open these doors, there's going to be 2 grunts facing the opposite door where you needled that grunt. So if that's the case, you want to stick at least 1 of them, ideally 2, and then we only have 1 brute to worry about, because once we get 2 enemies remaining in this area, we're going to jump up to the top of the map. Another thing you'll find is these 2 grunts, 1 will be facing the opposite door and 1 will be throwing a grenade at you. Either way, we're going to try to stick as many enemies as possible. You can see once we do engage those grunts, we're going to move up to this pedestal kind of near the ramp. And for whatever reason, the enemies get hung up in this area. They kind of wrap around on the opposite side, and they can't shoot you that well if you're crouching because the pedestal's here and also that ramp is providing you cover. And they're fairly easy to stick from here, especially if they're winding up to throw their own grenade, or if they get stuck in place and are just shooting at you, you could kind of lob a grenade over the ramp. But you can see once I took out the 5th of 7 enemies down below, I immediately jumped up to the top of the map. That's because we need to get ready for the 2 brutes that spawn in up top with carbines. There are 3 doors on each side up top here, so there's 6 potential locations that these brutes could spawn from, and I'll show you how to deal with all of them. You can see this time around, they both spawn on the opposite side of the map, so this is super easy to deal with. Shoot him from all the way over here until your gun overheats. That will damage him enough to get his camo to fail, and then you could switch to your Needler and unload a full magazine of Needler ammo at him, and that will now lock onto him and super combine and kill him. But when you get up top here, you basically want to position yourself where you're on top of the middle spawn and you're looking towards one of the side doors, so that way if they come in through the middle, you could see we could just get on top of them right away and beat them down before they could do much damage. And these doors they come out of don't open back up, so you want to make sure you grab the carbine and don't just let the door close and lock the carbine behind it, which probably won't happen to you, but it's a possibility, so just be aware of that. Grab the carbine if it's hiding behind the door before it locks. So we're back on top and in the position we want to be in, looking at the side door while being on top of the middle door. Another possibility is he comes out of the door you're actually looking at, in which case you want to close the gap as fast as you can and beat him down. The final possibility is he spawns on your side but not in the middle door and not at the door you were looking at. This is the most dangerous possibility because he's not that close to you and he could really just kill you before he could do much. You can see right there I didn't have a shield and I stood no chance really. And instead of going to the back wall where we just died, we want to go more towards the middle of the room. You want to do this after taking out the other brute carbine guy, wherever he might be. And this is the last one you want to take out. You can see we could get up on the sloped part of the geometry here. We could actually just stick them right over that. Another way we could take him out is to kind of get where we could just barely see him beyond the geometry, and we could actually needle him from here as well. So that is another way to take this guy out. But if you have a good amount of shield left, it's not that bad because you can just kind of poke your head out, take a couple shots, but then stick them real quick. Or I could just wait for him to jump down to the middle of the map and take him out slowly with my plasma rifle and possibly lock onto him with my needles. Or if I had a carbine available, I could try to take him out with that as well once he gets down to the middle of the map. But now we're back at the original run. I was showing you a bunch of different scenarios from different runs, but in this run, the original run that we're going to show, we have the grunt that survived and also a brute that is berserking that has survived. So those are the two enemies down below we have to take out now. We just took out the grunt down there. You could take him out easily if you have a carbine. Unfortunately, in this run, the carbines are on the other side of the map. You could try to get over here and grab the carbine and take him out, but you could always just play it safe and take out the grunt slowly with your plasma rifle or nades or needler, what have you. You definitely have enough brute plasma rifle ammo if you grabbed the one from the berserking brute originally, because that one is actually full when he just sets it down and then goes crazy. But you can see I just climbed up and grabbed the two carbines, so we have carbine and needler now, and I think I'm dual wielding needlers right now, which is an option. You could wait for him to start bashing the TV like the first brute that was berserking did and we dealt with by kind of standing on top of the TV, waiting for him to kind of get stuck in a position and then just unloading with the needler. I'm waiting for that right now, but he's not cooperating, and you could see it gets dangerous when he's actually running at you from the side of the ramp, because he could run up the ramp right at you and it gives him more height and he could actually smack you right off the top of the TV. You could stick him quickly with a plasma grenade as well. That's always an option. But you could see when he's in the animation of actually punching and meleeing, he actually could just punch the plasma grenade away from him and it doesn't stick to him. So that's a problem. But I'm trying to kill him near this TV because the next despawn we're going to do is basically right up against this TV. So you want to kill him and be in this area because you have to get to this area really quick. So again, I tried to stick him. He's not having it. There he goes. So now I'm going to drop down to the right side of this television, and you want to be in this position pretty exactly. You could see the lights on the ramp in the middle bottom of the ramp. There's like a light and a half that I could see. I've seen and heard a lot of people use that as their reference point, but I like to use a line on the pedestal on the left side of the far end of the room. Crazy, I know. And by standing here quickly after killing that brute, we've actually despawned those last waves of enemies we would normally have to deal with. And you'll know you're done with this room when Cortana says, put me down on one of the pedestals near the door. But you can see right there, I just zoomed in on that pedestal. You could see about half, the top half of that dark line on the pedestal. And here we're zooming in on the lights themselves on the ramp. A lot of people use that. I like to use the pedestal line over there. Super crazy, I know. Here's another shot of it. I'm going to shoot at the line I'm talking about. I like to also use that line on the back wall, the far back wall. Just one more thing to reference my location to make me feel good about it. But you could actually practice this, just kind of clear out this room on easy or something, and then just practice going to this location. It's kind of magnetic. Once you get in here, all I'm doing is hitting right, but you can see it's kind of sucking me back to the left. So it's kind of nice. Once you get in the right position, it kind of keeps you in the right position, but you do have to get into that position quickly. So that's why you want to kill the last remaining enemy when you're near that TV, so you can immediately go to that spot, despawn the final waves of enemies, and then we could leave this room forever. And before you head over there and put Cortana down at one of these pedestals, you want to make sure you have as much needle ammo, as many nades, and as much carbine ammo as possible. Just kind of scope out the room, get as much as you can, and then we're going to jump up here. And I like to hang out up here and allow the grunts to walk into the room. There's going to be 1 to 3 grunts that walk into this room and then walk back from where they came. Most of the time, 95% of the time, they do not see you. This is, in fact, the only run I've done where they saw me up here. You don't need to be up here. I just like it. I find it's easier to jump down and close the gap on the grunts really quick when they start retreating into the room that they came from. So I just like being up here. You could just be down on the ground level and kind of peek your head around the corner and wait for them to leave the room so you can run up behind them and assassinate them. But either way, we're going to assassinate these guys, get whatever shield we can from these guys. We probably don't have a full double over shield after dealing with that whole first room, but we're going to just retreat back into here. You can see there was a second grunt coming at me, so I'm going to go back into this room here, wait for him to leave. You could have headshot him if you wanted to, but I'm just looking for that shield, of course. So we're going to assassinate him. Got our shield in a pretty good situation here now, but you want to enter this room slowly because sometimes there's a couple more grunts that are close to the doorway that we just entered. So we want to make sure they're not kind of hiding right around the corner. You can see this grunt in particular is running away up to the other end of the room. So if that's the case, we'll just lay into him with our carbine. If they were close up, we would lay into him with our carbine as well, just headshot him real quick. There's going to be a turret that's set up as well, so you could just pick off that turret guy. And as you kill the grunts that are on the turret, the remaining grunts will just replace the guy on the turret. They'll just keep going to the turret, keep dying like their friends before them. And then there's 2 brute carbine-wielding guys at the end of this room as well. So sometimes they notice you right away and start helping out the grunts immediately. Other times, like this run, they don't really engage you until the end. Sometimes they don't engage you at all. So if you could avoid it, try not to shoot the brutes, because sometimes they'll just stand on the other side of that barrier and just let all the grunts die. Then you can move up and stick one of them easily, and then you could finish off the other guy who's berserking. For the berserking brute, we want to grab another needler if we can. So we have dual needlers at this point, so we could deliver more needles faster, and that way it will be way less risky to engage this berserking brute. He will not have as much time to get close to us and smack us. So we're just going to kind of stay over here on this side of the map, this side of the room, and wait for him to come to us. I like to hang out at the end of this middle level here. You can see there's some ramps leading up to the other end of the room, but I like to hang out at the top of this ramp, and when he gets down to the middle area here, I like to start backing up and shooting directly at him, and that will kill him pretty quickly. And then we're going to move up here, and if the plasma turret has not been destroyed, you could actually destroy it yourself via melee to get some shield. You want to look out for the carbines. You want to grab the 2 carbines as quickly as you can, because you're going to get a checkpoint when you go through this doorway. So you want to ideally have your carbine ammo collected before you get the checkpoint, so you don't have to recollect it. But you want to stick one of these brutes as the doors opens up. That will get the brute next to him to berserk. We're going to let that berserking brute live. We only want to kill 3 enemies in this area. 1 brute from the first pair, another brute from the second pair further down the map, and also the jackal on the right side of the map. So we're going to open up this door. We're going to try to lay into one of these brutes while we're keeping tabs on the nearby berserking brute. But when you get down here, you're probably going to draw his attention a few times. You could use that to your advantage. You can see he opened up the doors right there, and we used the open doors to be able to get up on top of this structure and then easily headshot that jackal. You don't need to kill that jackal from back here, but it's a pretty good way to go about it. And I'm going to start laying into these guys downrange again. And if that second brute downrange doesn't react by berserking, you could actually just hit start, save and quit, and then resume to try again. Or if you're playing co-op, you could just revert to your last checkpoint, because it just makes it way easier to get through this section if you kill 3 enemies, and 2 of the remaining enemies are berserking brutes, and 1 is the jackal on the other side. But once the coast is clear, you want to run up the right side. You could bash those gravity generator platform things for shield. Before you run through this room, you could go back to the first room and grab the brute shot. So you have a brute shot and carbine. The brute shot will take these things down with 1 hit. Touch this crate because it has a bunch of carbine ammo in it, and we want to drop down onto this structure, and we could see the grunt reinforcements are coming in now. That's because we moved up. At this point, you should have a carbine and either a brute shot or a needler. I have a needler at this point. It's good for taking out berserking brutes, but the brute shot has more melee power, so you could actually take enemies out faster and get your shield back quicker. And we're going to look down at the current threats, which is going to be a jackal sniper, and 2 grunts. One is going to have a needler, one's going to have a plasma pistol. So we're just going to headshot all these guys. And obviously the big priority here is the jackal sniper, because he could one-shot kill you, depending on what your shield situation is, obviously. But we want to make sure that we stay away from the lift, because we're actually going to use the lift to come back up into this area later for shields. And if you go and actually use the lift, you'll actually deactivate it for later. So don't go anywhere near the lift. We're going to go in here and hit a load zone as soon as we get to the bottom of this ramp. So we're going to actually spawn in a brute. We're going to turn around and assassinate him real quick for shields, and also to make sure he doesn't bother us later. We're going to peek our heads around this barrier. There's 2 brutes now in this section. So I stuck 1, and you can see I hit the previous load zone again, which actually despawned this brute. So I was going to stick him while he started berserking, but unfortunately he totally disappeared entirely. I've seen this happen before, and sometimes he's gone forever. Sometimes he reappears when we go back up the lift. I found that brute berserking around up top where we just came from. So just be aware if your 3rd brute despawns that he might be somewhere around the map when we come back here to deal with him, or deal with this area later. So you might have to deal with him at that point. So I'm just going to move on. I'm confused at this point, so I'm just kind of looking around. But as soon as I regain my composure, I'm going to move forward, and there's going to be 3 jackals. Those are the next enemies. They're in the next hallway, and they're very easy to take out. So I'll show you how to do that once I actually start moving forward. Start moving forward towards those jackals. Here we go. We're finally putting that behind us. We're going to go over here, and you want to hide to the right side of this door. There's going to be 3 jackals that run past this doorway here up the right side, and then they kind of come back. So they ran from the left to the right. Now they're going to run from the right to the left and kind of into our view here. So you want to just barely see their head over the wall here, and you can just put your reticle on their head and just shoot them in the head. It's very easy. Just wait for them to expose their heads. You can see they're behind their shield a lot of the time, but eventually he just kind of pops up and exposes his head. And sometimes you want to watch out for this. You can see those first 2 were easy to take out, but occasionally one will start backpedaling and start trying to go to the next section. So I avoided him doing that by trying to headshot him, and I also threw a nade just to kind of block his path. Half the time you'll see a brute trying to stick you once you open up this door. Other times the brute is a little further back. So just be ready to throw a plasma grenade if you find that he's right here throwing a nade at you. Just return the favor. And once we take out that first brute, we want to look towards the left side of the map. You can see there's a kind of parallel hallway that runs along the hallway we're in right now, but it's a step up. It's a little higher than ours, and there's always 2 jackals somewhere in that hallway. They could be on our end, more towards our left, or they could be further down the hall. You can see in this run, there were 2 jackals at the far end on the left side of the hallway I'm talking about. Once you take out one of them, there will be more reinforcements that come into this room from the far end, and they consist of 2 more brutes along with some grunts. So we want to take out the first brute ideally, and then the other one will probably start berserking, so we could either shoot them in the head with the carbine as they approach, or we could just lay into them with our needler, or we could just give them the stick. But be aware that when you stick a berserking brute that's running at you, he's probably going to close the gap and it'll explode in your face. So it's probably not the best idea to stick an oncoming brute in such a fashion, but we're going to basically take out all the grunts with just headshots, as you would expect, so nothing special there. The jackals, whenever they see you and they put up their shield, they're going to keep their shield up until you basically disengage, until they can't see you, and then just wait a few seconds, and then poke your head back out, and you'll see he put his shield down. So if you ever have a jackal with his shield up, just disengage, run away, and then try again after, 10 seconds have passed or so. So then that way they're a lot easier to take out, because the ghost skull is on, so you can't shoot them in the notch in their shield to get them to kind of stagger backwards and then shoot them in the head. That is not a viable option in the LASO playlist, so do not even try it. But you can see we're just taking this hallway very slowly, nothing very crazy in regards to strategy, just general killing enemies here, general slaying power. So just be aware of the fact that there's a ton of nades coming at you from the other end of the hallway. The grunts and brutes will throw a bunch of them, and then we want to be aware of the second of 2 jackals. You could see sometimes they're positioned in such a way, one jackal may be positioned in such a way where you could assassinate them, but that doesn't happen most of the time, so don't rely on that shield you're going to get from assassinating him. But we could run up here. You want to take this slowly because the grunts like to hide. You could actually kill them and assassinate them for more shields, but a lot of the time you aren't able to kill them fast enough to get your shield back, and they'll end up killing you. So that should not be your primary strategy. But once you clear out this hallway, we're going to go to this crate, grab more carbine ammo, but we're going to use the crate itself for cover here. We're going to move it up towards the doorway. You don't want to put it in the doorway because the closing doors will send it flying around the map, and it might even splatter you. So we're going to move up here now, and then we want to cut back immediately because there's going to be 2 jackals that spawn in from the right side. They're going to run across to the left side, and then they'll come back, and we're going to take them out easily by kind of popping up over the crate here that we're using for cover and just headshotting them real quick, and that way they can't really get too many shots on us. So here they are, headshot them, and we could actually just keep using this crate. We don't have to leave it behind, just keep smacking it ahead of us. It's a lot safer to have something like this in front of you and use this for cover than it is to use a door frame for cover where you're kind of totally exposed when you're trying to get shots off, and then you're totally safe when you're hiding behind the door frame. If you have something in front of you like this, when you pop up to shoot enemies, you have a maximum of half your body exposed instead of the entire thing if you're kind of using a door for cover. So we're going to just kill all these enemies, like so, and keep moving forward. So there's a bunch of grunts in here. There's 2 brutes as well. So we killed the 2 brutes, still have a handful of grunts to deal with. A bunch of carbine ammo to use against them, so just take this part slowly. It's very easy to get overconfident in this section. I've done it many times. I'm like, oh, I killed the 2 brutes. Let's just, run at these grunts. But it's very easy to get overwhelmed by them. At the end of this little hallway, there is a checkpoint that's guaranteed, so you want to make sure we hit that. We don't want to die with like 1 grunt left right before we get a checkpoint. That would be annoying. So just take this part slowly, and I like to move up the right side here and then start using this crate because sometimes there's another grunt or 2 hiding right at the end of this area, and it's easy for them to light you up, especially if you have no or low shield. So we can see there's nobody here. You don't want to move up too far because you don't want to trigger the checkpoint. Once we see that all those enemies are dead, we're going to go back the way we came, and we're going to go to this lift that we skipped. We're actually going to use it to go up, and we're going to get our shield up to a double over shield in preparation for the prison skip. So you can see there's these decorative gravity lift type things that are holding up these structures that are rotating. You could actually smack the base of these things a couple times like we did on our way down with one and get your shield up that way. So the only risk here is the fact that they're holding up giant pieces of architecture or whatever. They could actually crush you if you walk under it as it falls down. So don't do that. Make sure it doesn't topple down onto you as well. Some more carbine ammo here in the corner if you need it. So now I'm going to skip ahead again. We're just back where we were, where we finished off those last enemies, and we're going to go through the doorway at the end of this hallway, and we want to make sure we're not jumping or meleeing, so we get a checkpoint here as we go through it. We're going to turn to the right and headshot the Jackal, and then we're going to drop down and we're going to stand behind and to the right of this column here on the left of me, so we could peer in down below in the middle of the map. Once we see enemies moving there, those are 2 brutes. We want to cut in, and if we time this right, the second brute will finally go up, and then Cortana reverses the lift, so he's going to drop back down. We basically want to go down the lift with the brute right above us. So get the brute to pop up, go in under him, and then descend together. You can see we didn't get the timing right on that one. He was below us. We want him right above us, not right below us. So we've reverted to our last checkpoint. We're going to try again. Stand behind and to the right of this column here. Once you see enemies moving in there, they are in position. If you move in too late, both brutes will just go up the lift and leave you alone down there. If you go in too early, the brute won't go in at all. And if you time it right, this is what happens. And you want to make sure that the brute is not simply above you, but also within melee range, because we're going to basically use him to drag ourselves back up the lift once we hit the load zone. So once you hear Cortana talking, you could take that opportunity to start this button combo. All you have to do is alternate between hitting jump and melee at the same time, followed by reload. And that will basically get you to lunge towards the brute and then cancel your lunge, and thereby bring you both back up the lift. So hit jump and melee at the same time and then reload. And the timing of the buttons is not that strict, but I usually do it at about a time of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, where 1 is jump and melee and 2 is reload. But the toughest part about this is not the button combo. That's actually very easy. The toughest part is getting the brute to follow you. So I cleared out this room just so I could show you when you basically trigger Cortana to start reversing the lift. That whole process. Basically, when you get to the bottom of this little ramp, you can see there's 4 ramps leading to the bottom middle of this map. Once you cross this barrier and step onto the flat surface of the bottom here, that's when Cortana spawns in and says, Chief, jump in or whatever, and reverses the lift here. So you just want to adjust your timing of when you're getting down that ramp as needed. The timing of the brutes walking down there and doing whatever they do is consistent within the run, but from run to run, it always varies a little bit, so you have to feel it out a little bit just to see how fast the brutes are getting down there and jumping into the lift. There's also another way to do this, but I find it is more difficult. Basically, you try to get the brute to smack you into the lift, but I find that's more difficult, at least on LASO, because the Sputnik skull makes you more smackable, and he smacks you over the lift, over the hole, instead of into the hole a lot of the time, I find. But once you get that brute to follow you down the lift, and he's within melee range, you want to wait for some Cortana dialogue. That indicates you've hit the load zone you need to hit, and we can now leave the area by doing our trusty button combo, which is, again, jump and melee at the same time, so you're simultaneously hitting those, and then right after that, you want to hit reload. So for me, those buttons are A and B. A is jump, B is melee, and then X is reload. So I'm going to press A and B at the same time, followed by X, and then A and B, and then X, and then A and B, and then X. And I set up a webcam here on my controller so you could see me do it in real time. Originally, when this glitch was discovered, it was thought that you had to mash these 3 buttons all at once, but it's a lot easier to just hit jump and melee and then reload and keep alternating between those. But you can see I've hit the load zone now, so I've started up, and I'm not really doing it that fast. It's just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So not that fast. A lot easier than mashing all 3 buttons at once. And you can see a Jackal fell down and joined us as well. So there's a Jackal standing on a brute standing on me. So if you have more than one enemy on top of you, sometimes you need to hit the buttons a little bit faster. So you may need to do that. You need a little more power to lift all 3 of you up instead of just you and the brute. But that's all there is to it. To the button glitch, obviously you want to hit whatever buttons are associated with those actions. So it may not be A and B followed by X for you. It'll be whatever controller configuration you have, whether that's on an actual controller or on a mouse and keyboard. And one final tip when you're getting the brute to be right above you in the lift, sometimes you'll go into the lift at the same time as the brute, so you're side by side. You just want to crouch rapidly when that happens, and that gets you to lower faster than you would normally, and then you could get under the brute that way. But now we've made it to the top, and we're going to continue on from here. Ideally, you would have assassinated the brute as you started going up. Once you start getting lifted up again, you don't have to keep doing the button glitch. You could just start assassinating the brute and beating him down, and you'll get shield from that. You also want to kill 1 Marine to ensure you have at least a single overshield. And then there's carbine ammo behind you, and we have a sword as well. So we are going to go up here and then kind of go towards that door. It will spawn in the elites and buggers that fly into this area, and we'll just wait up on the ledge here. They're going to be fighting each other. The buggers and elites fight each other, plus there's some Marines thrown into the mix, so you just want to let that 3-way fight play out and then go towards the middle of the room so you could jump down towards the door and run through it. You can see I paused right there on the side because you usually get a checkpoint there if you take it slowly enough, and then we're going to move forward here, and we're going to go into this corner, and we want to stick our head into this geometry like we did on the regret gondola, and you want to tilt your camera down so you could see through the geometry on the upper left side of the screen. And by doing this, we can't be seen by enemies when you have your head in geometry like that. So we let the buggers fly through the door. They spawn and rush through that door. We wait a little bit until we can't hear the buggers that much anymore. They've flown past us, and then we go through the door ourselves a lot more safely. This hallway will have 2 brutes and 3 elites fighting. There's 3 elites up on the left side and 2 brutes down below on the right. So you could either just run right past them and hope they're just going to be distracted by their fight that they're having, or you could engage them as well. But that was super aggressive of me to basically take on all 5 of them. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It's random whether the setup is good for you to run past them or not, so you might want to just do a little bit of trial and error there. Try to run past them to start, and if you can't get past them easily, just start fighting them. But we're not going to jump or melee here. We're going to walk to the right side of this barricade because that will get you a checkpoint. If you jump up and over these barricades to kind of shorten the time you're in this room, it actually is detrimental because you don't get the checkpoint. But we're going to turn to the right, take out the Jackal sniper in the tower there, and we're going to hug the right side. You can actually jump up here, and there's a lot of area over here down below where you're totally safe. So don't go all the way down there because you will die eventually, but you have a lot of room to work with over here, and no one's going to be fighting you because they're all fighting each other in the big main area. So jump up here, up to here, and then up and to the right. If we look back over here on the structure we're on now, there's actually a grunt that spawns over there with a fuel rod. So if you really want to go get some shields, you could go over there and risk obviously getting fuel rodded, but you could go smack him and get some shields back if you want to. But it is a little risky. There's a skull over there as well. Do not grab that. That will mess up your weapon switching. But you just want to simply walk off this ledge and fall down into this section. You don't want to jump and then fall down because you will die from the fall timer if you do so. Fall nice and easily, but there's no enemies in this area, so you have a nice little reprieve from the battle. There is going to be a Jackal sniper that spawns on the end of this bridge. So we're going to go into this gravity bridge type thing. We're going to shoot across. He's going to be on the left or the right. It's totally random, so just keep an eye out. I can see he's on the right, so we're going to try to headshot him quickly as possible with our carbine. And then we're going to jump up here, and then we're going to miss the jump. Just try to make it on the first try, and then we're going to jump up here, and we're going to get on top of the map here so we could avoid the fight that's happening down below. There's a bunch of elites and brutes down there. They're fighting. They don't like each other as of this level. They never did, but now they're really, taking out that aggression and that anger. But we're going to drop down to the left here. There's going to be a carbine-wielding elite, and you could try to avoid him, or you could just take him out. The problem with trying to take him out is the fact that there's a sword elite down here as well, so he will try to end your run pretty quickly. So you want to either take out that carbine very quickly or just totally try to avoid him. He will probably shoot you a little bit, so if you have no shield, you might have to resort to killing him. Or else he'll just kind of snipe you and pick you off. But we're just going to move down below on this bridge. We don't want to take the gravity bridge this time. We want to go down below. And there's 2 brutes with brute shots, but you could easily avoid their shots. Just don't get hit with a direct hit. It's easy to sidestep them. And we're going to assassinate one of those brutes for shields. But we're going to wait right here for a little bit to spawn in the jetpack elites. And if we time it right, we could actually jump up and assassinate one as they're flying away. I got a ghost melee there, so it didn't connect. But we're going to go over here, assassinate one of the brutes for shielding because we need it for a grenade jump we're going to do right now. Usually both brutes are facing away from you, so you could assassinate one easily and then stick the other. That time it was a little more difficult, but we pulled it off. And here you'll probably get a checkpoint, so I like to take that little corner slowly in that tunnel there. And I'm going to throw a plasma grenade down after a little bit, after a couple seconds, once I know they're all fighting each other, and jump as it goes off into the top of this map. This is, I found, a little more reliable than it was to go down and take the regular route you take. And as we drop down and go into this tunnel, we want to be ready with a sticky grenade. We're going to throw it at the first brute we see here, so it sticks him. The second one will probably berserk. You want to dodge to the left or the right because they're going to throw their own nades probably. So you could jump up into the left or up into the right to dodge those. And then we're going to carbine the elite, or not the elite, the brute who's charging us. And you want to aim for the head, obviously. And then we'll take the gravity bridge across this section. A note on the previous section we just grenade jumped through. There's an alternate route. The main route that most people normally take is they drop down to the bottom of the map as soon as they get in there and then walk across the bottom and then jump up on a crate and then jump up to where we exited that area from. So if you really can't nail that plasma grenade jump, or if you have no shields, for instance, you probably want to go with the regular strategy, which is the non-explosive route. But after that bridge, you can see we got on top of the map again, but then we drop down here because all that's in this section are a bunch of grunts that are fleeing. They're kind of stuck in their animation of running around, fleeing for their lives, so they're not going to fire back. The only thing that's dangerous is the 2 berserking brutes in this area, so just be careful of them. We could get a full double overshield by smacking 2 of these grunts, and you saw me destroy that kind of antenna-looking thing when I first jumped down from the top of the map. And then we're just going to go around here to the next section. There's another bridge we're going to go across, and we will be able to make our way to the next section. We're going to grab a beam rifle. right here at the beginning of this gravity bridge. So make sure you have a beam rifle at this point and a carbine. We're going to use this beam rifle in a hot second to take out these brutes in this section. If you forgot the beam rifle, it's not that big of a deal. We could use carbine, but it's just easier with the beam rifle. So move forward through this area. You can see there's a big long hallway leading up. And then as soon as you see that door start to open up, we're just going to back up through this door. And the brutes do not react or try to shoot at you or anything. They just stand there. Easy targets. And we're just going to shoot them twice in the head, and that will knock off their helmets. And then that will guarantee that each of the remaining brutes now have one more shot to take to the dome, whether it's a beam rifle or a carbine, so you could easily take them out. This guy's closing the gap fast, but we took him out. Lots more carbine ammo right here, so we should have full carbine at this point. Fill up on nades. We're going to grab a brute shot. So we have a brute shot and a carbine at this point. We're going to jump up onto this plant and then up onto the archway above the door. You don't want to do this in the center. You can see there's kind of an indent in the doorway here, or in the wall above the door. And if we do a brute shot jump, we'll hit our head on the top of that indent and it will send us backwards instead of up. So we want to kind of go towards the left a little bit or the right. It doesn't matter. Just go to the side. And we're going to look straight down and jump and shoot a brute shot at the same time. It will send us up and over this area. That will despawn all the enemies in this next section. And as soon as you jump over that doorway, you can see I went to the right and there's a crate of beam rifles. So I grabbed that. I now have a beam rifle and a brute shot. The carbine I'm going to leave behind because there's a ton of carbines along the way, so if I ever need one or want one later, I could just grab a nearby one. So we have the brute shot and the beam rifle. So we're going to go over here. We're going to go through this door. I'm going to switch to my brute shot because that offers more melee power, and I want to come up around the right side of this area so I can assassinate or beat down that elite. If he decides to turn around, we'll just beat him from the front. And then we want to crouch right here. There's going to be 4 grunts that round the corner. They're going to be freaking out most likely, so we could just smack them twice with the brute shot, and that will kill them because it has more melee power, so it makes this a lot easier and faster. We killed 3 right there. The other one may have run back in. Sometimes he runs away, which is annoying, but he ran back towards us this time, so that's nice. And the next thing we want to do is grab one of the plasma pistols that the grunts dropped. Hopefully you could find one. There's probably some needlers lying around as well from those guys, so grab a plasma pistol, and also there's a crate of carbines here as well, so we're going to grab the carbine, and we're going to move over here, and we're going to noob combo this elite. This elite is normally an invisible elite, even on regular legendary. So even without the assassin skull from LASO, this guy is invisible. So we're going to knock this crate over, and we're going to do the quad pop that we did back in the Arbiter. We're going to overcharge our plasma pistol, and then we're going to pop up, pop him with it, go back down, pop up, and then pop him in the head with the carbine. But you can see I actually did not grab the carbine earlier. I had a different weapon accidentally that I picked up. So we're going to try it again. Put yourself in a position behind this box so that when you're crouched, you are totally safe. But when you pop up, your reticle is directly on the elite. So get the elite to kind of stand still, which he does most of the time. Pop up, pop him with that overcharged plasma pistol. Go back down, switch to your carbine. Pop up one more time and headshot him in the head. Or rather, pop him in the head, the quad pop. And once we take out that elite in that hallway, we're going to go back, grab our beam rifle. So we have a beam rifle, we have a carbine, and we're going to grab more carbine ammo here in this crate. And we're going to turn to the left. There's going to be a fuel rod gun on the ground, so this has a lot of ammo in it. We're going to juggle this into the next section. We're going to use it to fight some hunters. So just juggle that forward, go through the door. You can see there's an elite up and to the left. We're going to go into the lift in the middle of the room here, and we're going to pop up onto his level. Get on his level. We'll wrap up around behind him and kill him. Whether he's offering his back to us or he's facing us, we'll just punch him until we could smack him in the back with the Sputnik skull. A lot of the times, most of the time, this elite will be standing, this second elite will be standing on the opposite side of the room on top of the kind of the curved surface. And when they're on those curved surfaces, they do not really move. So he's kind of stuck there. So I'm going to move up and actually spawn in the 2 jackals and the brute. So I could have the elite face off against those 3 enemies, and he'll offer a little bit of help. And we'll be able to kind of get them to fight each other to kind of make our lives easier. So we're just hanging out up here watching it unfold. You want to be careful because they will still fight you if they do see you. So I recommend quickly headshotting the jackals if you get them within your sights. And then you just have the brute and elite to deal with, and they're probably dealing with each other. So once they're cleared out, we're going to go back and get our fuel rod. We're going to continue to juggle this. We still have a carbine. We still have a beam rifle. We still have the fuel rod. So keep juggling. Throw these weapons ahead of you as you go. We're going to open this door, and then this next door, there's going to be 3 elites and 1 jackal sniper. The jackal sniper is very close to you on the right side, so you can see him right here. He might get shot up by the elites. A lot of the times, most of the times, I would say he survives and shoots the elites with you. So you could choose to take out the jackal immediately and then just focus on the 3 elites. But either way, I'm just going to focus on the elites. Even if I let the Jackal live, I would kind of hide back here, shoot the elites, and then the Jackal will eventually kind of chip in and help out because he moves towards those elites and starts sniping at those guys. So we could use that turret to our advantage. Most of the time, all 3 elites will get on that turret. As one dies, the next elite will replace them on the turret. So it's very easy to use to your advantage. So just kind of hang back here and safely beam rifle them from afar. We could see this elite is killing himself. He's stuck in this animation. This is what we saw in the level The Arbiter, where he kind of got stuck on something and he kind of went into this oscillating animation where he's turning to the left and then right, then left and then right. And for whatever reason, that hurts him, and then he just falls over and dies after a while. So I just let him do that. I've never seen that happen here in particular. Normally he would get on the turret and I would kill him with the beam rifle like I did the other 2, but that's okay. This works too. But once those 3 elites and that 1 Jackal have died and there's no more enemies here, you could move up and start meleeing this turret here. Usually this turret survives, so you could start smacking it for some shield. Once we take it down, we're going to exchange our beam rifle for a fresh one. And you can see the crate of beam rifles to the right of the turret over there. So we're going to grab one of those, and then we're going to move forward, and this will spawn in the buggers and 1 to 2 elites on the opposite side. So we're going to look back the way we came, up towards the top, and you can see when the buggers spawn in, you can see their wings start fluttering around. So at that point, right when you see them spawn in, you want to immediately go back the way we came, and I like to just kind of take some evasive maneuvers. You can see I'm just kind of zigzagging around and trying to avoid as much plasma pistol fire from those buggers as possible. They'll fly over to the other end, and at that point, once they reach the elites, that's when I like to start sniping the elites. That way, when I get the damage done to the elites, they will have their camo fail, and the buggers over there will actually chip in and start helping. Historically, I know there's been 2 elites over there on the opposite side of the bridge. I don't know if I'm going too fast and thereby despawning him, or if he's killing himself off screen. But we only had 1 elite this time around, and I like to wait until the buggers are over near the elites to start firing on the elites, and that way the buggers will actually help out and chip in and make sure the shield of the elites doesn't go back up as he ducks behind cover or something. Once the elite or elites are dead, you want to take out the buggers with the beam rifle, and then grab that fuel rod gun we juggled into this section. Walk over here, and this door will open up. There's going to be 2 hunters facing you. They are very easy to take out with the fuel rod. That's why we brought it with us here. And you can see it doesn't take too many direct hits with this fuel rod to take these guys out. And we have 20 shots with this thing, so plenty of ammo to go around. A lot easier than sticking the hunters and then having them be stunned or run away from that explosion, and then you have to snipe them in one of their weak points. Kind of tough when they're invisible. But on the end of this bridge on the left, there's usually an antenna that's hanging out, and we could use that to beat it down and get some of our shield back, which is something we did earlier in the mission. But that is not here. It was knocked off the edge, so I'm a little upset, but we're pretty much done with this mission. So we're going to go in here. I like to wait about 10-15 seconds. I open the doors, back up, wait here for 10-15 seconds-ish, wait for the brutes and the elites to start fighting. The brutes start off on the left, the elites on the right. The brutes will move towards the elites. The elites always stay on the right side, and then the brutes move up to meet them. So we're going to find that the left side of the map is totally vacant, and we'll be able to move up and spawn in the hunters. So the first thing you want to do once you go into this room after about 10-15 seconds of waiting is go along the left side here, and you want to watch out for the fuel rod elite, because he can still shoot you if he sees you. So watch out for any fuel rods going over towards your side. We could see the hunters have spawned in, so we're going to go back. That was all we were trying to do in this section, is spawn in the hunters, get them into the fight. We're going to go back the way we came, and then we're going to go back to the last load zone, and we're just going to wait there for about 10 minutes. And by doing that, it will unlock the door we need to go through to get to the last part to end the mission. Instead of fighting everybody, and then once you kill everybody, the door opens up, you could actually just wait, and after 10-12 minutes, it will open up by itself, and we'll also have despawned the enemy elites that spawn in as the final wave. But you can see we've reached this point where there's kind of these banners that usually hang along the walls. They are down on the floor. This is the only part of the game where they are hanging out on the floor. They're kind of knocked off the wall. Once you get back into this room, you want to open up the far door, the one that's more towards the beginning of the mission. And once we open that up and step out a little bit, that means we've definitely hit the load zone. We'll go back, and we're going to walk back to the other edge of the load zone, so we could actually just kind of ready ourselves to move forward after the wait that we're going to do here. But you can see the door in front of us is actually red. That is a good sign. That's what we want to see. If that turns white, that means we've moved forward too far and we've hit the load zone where the mausoleum is, and we want to not be in that load zone. So you can see this line I'm making on the ground with my carbine. I'm just shooting a bunch of bullets. Don't cross that line. That's not exactly where the load zone line is, but there's no reason to get closer than that. Just hang out here. You can wait about 15 minutes for good measure, and then just go, and you'll see that the mausoleum door on the far end is unlocked, and you can move through it. But if you want to know exactly when you can move forward, it's actually when the final music for this mission kicks in, and I'll let you hear what it sounds like in a second. But once that music kicks in, I would wait an additional 30 seconds just to be safe. I actually move forward immediately upon hearing the music in this run, and I actually end up having one of the final elites spawn, Not all of them, but one ends up spawning in because I was too quick to jump into the final load zone and get to the end of the mission. So wait an additional 30 seconds after you hear this music kick in just to be safe. But I've skipped ahead about 10 minutes now, and I'm going to turn up the game volume just so you know what music you're listening for. But you can see once that music kicks in, I moved into the next load zone. Again, I recommend waiting 30 seconds, not jumping right into it like I did here. But the song itself is subtle. It's not some super loud, bombastic soundtrack or anything like that. But once you hear it, you know you're good to go. We're going to go into the mausoleum and go up the left side because the brutes, elites, and hunters are still fighting each other. Their fight is basically on pause once we leave this area. So they're still over there. The left side is still clear. We're going to go up this left side and through the door on the other side of this map that we entered from. And you want to have your fuel rod left over, any leftover fuel rod from your hunter fight, because there's a fuel rod elite, like I mentioned, and sometimes he takes a special interest in you. You can see here, here's the one elite out of 4 or 5 that spawn in here at the end. That's because I went into this load zone too fast. Again, I recommend waiting about 30 seconds just to be safe. But here's a totally separate run where the fuel rod elite did notice us. He's firing right at us. We're returning the favor, not really in an interest to kill him, but just to get him to dive out of the way so he stops firing at us. And you can see here I actually nailed the despawn because I waited for more than a split second before I walked into this final load zone once the music started up. So this is what you want to see, is no enemies here in the final doorway. And meanwhile, I'm just trotting over here to the end of the mission. And that's a wrap on Gravemind, the toughest of all LASO missions, toughest of all Halo missions in general. Easy, breezy, beautiful, Master Chief. Next up, we have Uprising, which is part 11 of 13. We're almost at the end. We're in the final stretch. Definitely one of the easiest missions in Halo 2. So I'll see you here for that one. Thanks for watching, guys. If you found that video helpful, be sure to click on the scorpion icon to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. You can also check out some related guides by clicking on the videos on screen, and you can find links in the description for other social media links of mine. Stay tuned for more Halo guides, and I'll see you in the next one.